Tien Cong Tran, Ph.D. Metaphysics. According to Heidegger. From the standpoint of his thought, Heidegger looks back at the history of Western philosophy. More clearly, from his view of being, Heidegger looks back at the history of metaphysics. Heidegger calls the history of metaphysics the first beginning of mankind. Moreover, according to Heidegger, Western thought is now planetary thought. A study of Western philosophy is a study of the present situation of mankind. Being and Time, 1927, begins with the question of being has today been forgotten. What situation does the forgetfulness of being lead us to? Chapter I. Being. Metaphysics thinks being, truth and man. Western philosophy takes its start with the Greeks. How does it begin? According to Heidegger, the Greeks wonder before the disclosure, appearance, of beings. They raise questions about beings, they seek for the knowledge of beings. Plato and Aristotle talk about the wonder as the beginning of philosophy. So, the wonder is the attunement in man that raises a study which is named philosophy. However, it is possible to say that not only the Greeks, but all men as human beings want to get a knowledge of beings they encounter. Therefore, a study of beings takes its start in a very ancient time, maybe from the beginning of mankind. So, what specific characteristic does the Greek wonder have so that it can be the beginning of Western philosophy? The Greeks wonder before the disclosure of beings and ask questions about being as being or being in totality. Being as being, what makes every being as being, not a particular being. Being in totality, being as being indicates being in totality. The Greeks look for the presence or being of beings. Being or the presence, existence, is beingness of a being. Western philosophy begins with the study of beings or beingness of beings. The Greek word physis designates the appearance, the disclosure of beings. Physis is often translated as nature. Regarding of being as being, metaphysics thinks two aspects: what makes beings and the presence of beings. What makes beings is called essence and the presence is called existence. Existence also appears in subjectivity and objectivity. The essence and the existence are two characteristics which are thought about beings. Regarding being in totality, metaphysics thinks what is common to beings. The common is the general, the universal. Categories are general characteristics. In summary, the task of metaphysics is to think the disclosure or presence of beings. This disclosure or presence is the being or beingness of beings. Section 1. Metaphysics before Nietzsche. Anaximander thinks about beings, about the being of beings. Beings appear and stay for a time from arrival to depart. The being of beings is kreon, which Heidegger translates as the use. The use here, according to Heidegger, is to let appear, to give the presence to beings in an ordinance of time. That is the setting and order of beings. But beings want to stay forever, and so they escape from the order. The use also gives to beings this presence as staying, and so the unorder. Parmenides thinks beings in their being or the being of beings. Moira, temporarily translated as fate or apportionment, dispenses the truth understood as the unconcealment of beings. Parmenides thinks the unconcealment of beings. Heraclitus also thinks beings in their being or the being of beings. Logos brings beings into their presence. Logos is the one which brings all beings into the sphere of the unconcealment, Logos is the clearing. Logos is the truth understood as the disclosure of beings. Logos is the word which reveals beings. Plato sees the idea as the essence of a being. The idea table makes this thing, for example, appear as a table. According to Plato, there is a world of ideas which is apart from the world of beings. Regarding the perspective of essence and existence, Plato thinks of the essence of a being. It is possible to say that Plato thinks the world of ideas from the view of the world of beings. Aristotle thinks being as energia, actualization. The actualization designates the completeness, of a being. Energia is often translated as actuality. Actuality denotes the presence of a being. Aristotle also thinks of four causes: material cause, formal cause, efficient cause and final cause. According to a common opinion, with Plato and Aristotle, being is thought in two ways: idea designates the essence of a being and actuality designates the existence of a being. Essence and existence reign through the whole Western metaphysics. Essence and existence often go together. Depending on essence a being can exist, and depending on existence a being can have an essence. Besides energia, Aristotle presents 10 categories: substance, quantity, quality, relation, place, time, position, state, action, and affection. Middle Ages think beings as created beings and God as the creator. God creates beings. So, Middle Ages think, from the efficient cause, the existence of beings. Descartes discovers that in the knowledge of beings there is the knowledge of ego. Ego means I. I is the subject and a being is the object. The subject is the foundation of the knowledge. The being of I is thinking, I think so I exist. Thinking represents a being as the object before a subject. Thinking or representation is being of the subject and also being of the object. Thinking harbors being in itself. Kant makes the distinction between empirical knowledge and pure, supersensual, knowledge. Empirical knowledge is knowledge of the object by sensibility, and pure knowledge is composed of pure intuition of time and pure understanding of categories. Kant talks about 12 categories. Categories are the horizon from which man sees beings. Empirical knowledge is possible on the foundation of pure knowledge. Objectivity is possible on the foundation of subjectivity. With Hegel, spirit becomes absolute spirit. Before Descartes, spirit thinks the object with the subject and the object are two different realities. This is thesis. Until Descartes, spirit thinks itself with the subject and the object are still two different realities. This is antithesis. Until Hegel, spirit thinks itself with it combines the subject and the object. This is synthesis. With Hegel, spirit becomes absolute. Absolute here means not depending on anything else or not relating to anything else. Absolute spirit is the whole reality. The outside world is also by spirit. This is absolute idealism. Section 2. Nietzsche's famous saying is God is dead. God here is the representative of the world of ideas or the metaphysical or supersensual world of Plato and Catholicism. Being understood as the metaphysical world is only a vapor which is disappearing. Being or reality is the sensual world. With Nietzsche, man now is Superman. Superman is not man with superpowers in the ordinary meaning. Super means surpassing, beyond. Beyond what? Beyond the traditional man or Catholic man, man who believes in a metaphysical world. Therefore, Superman is man who declares that God is dead or an atheist. Superman returns to the sensual world, and the will is the reality of the sensual world. Nietzsche finds power is the main character of the will. The will is the will to power. Power wants increase, the will to power always wants more power. This always can become eternal. Therefore, the will to power wants eternal return. Eternal return is the way of existence of the will to power. So, in Nietzsche's thought, Superman, the will to power and the eternal return go together. God is dead or the metaphysical world collapses, there is only the sensual world. So, the twofold or the doctrine of two shores disappears. The twofold is only an illusion. There is no difference between being and beings, there is no being or beings are being. If metaphysics is a study of the metaphysical, Nietzsche is the end of metaphysics. With the sensual world, a thing is an assemblage of sensual qualities. Descartes, Kant, and Hegel, the subject is reason; Nietzsche, subject is will. It is possible to say that with Descartes, Kant, and Hegel reason is also will, but this is supersensual will, not Nietzsche's sensual will. Section 3. Modern Science and Technology. Why does Heidegger discuss modern science? Because when philosophy has lost its authority on the determination of beings, science, understood as modern science, takes the role. If the metaphysical is cast away and there is only material, science provides us an abundant knowledge about material. So, with science, how do beings appear? According to Heidegger, the essence of science is expressed in the statement, science is the theory of the real. What is the real and the theory here? The real or reality is that which, brought into presence, lies before. This corresponds to modern philosophy when man becomes the subject and a being the object. The theory is to bring a being present as an object. The theory is the viewing, the observation of the real. The observation pursues something, entraps it, refines it and secures it as an object. Modern science is a research. And this research has a projected plan, a serious methodology, a particularizing in many different areas, and an ongoing activity. By that manner, science sets up the real. The knowledge of the real is secured by measurement and calculation. The measurement and calculation lead to rule and law in the determination of the realm of nature. Therefore, science provides a fixed knowledge of the object. People do not need philosophy to know what a thing is. Heidegger calls the age of science the age of the world picture. What is the world picture? According to Heidegger, the world serves here a name for all beings or for what is in its entirety. Heidegger divides all beings into nature and history. History designates the subject of human sciences. Picture is a copy of something. But Heidegger does not use picture in this meaning. For him the picture means the matter stands before us exactly as it stands with it for us, but not only so, it still stands before us as a system. But what does this mean? This means the world becomes a picture when man knows, orders and brings the world before himself. The world picture is not the picture of the world, but the world conceived and grasped as picture. The world exists as the world only in the extent that it is set up by man, who represents and set forth. This view of the world corresponds to the view that the subjectivity acquires the dominant role in the modern age. What comes to the domain of presence is decided by man. Man gets the role of establishing the sphere of presence of the world. This sphere becomes a sphere of measurement and executing for the purpose of gaining mastery over that which is as a whole by man. Through this, whatever is comes to a stand as object and in that way alone receives the seal of being. Then Heidegger discusses technology. Why technology? Because technology continues science's work in the determination of beings. For us, talking about technology is talking about machines and the use of them. The age of technology is the age of machines. It is exactly so. But Heidegger discusses technology in the meaning that technology is a way of appearance of beings before man. What is the character of this disclosure? There are two ways of revealing of technology, producing and all-placing, G.E. Stell. According to Heidegger, the revelation of modern technology is a challenging. The challenging demands nature to supply energy. This supplying is extracting and storing. Regarding energy, Heidegger talks about expediting, unlocking, transforming, storing, distributing, and switching. The revealing of modern technology is also a revelation, a bringing forth, a producing. In addition, the revelation composes of many kinds of placing, ordering. Heidegger uses the word all-placing to call many kinds of placing, ordering. With all-placing, a being becomes a standing reserve. A standing reserve is ready to be used, standing by, immediately at hand. Man also becomes a standing reserve. We have said that in the modern age, a thing becomes an object. Now in the age of technology, it becomes a standing reserve. We see that the metaphysical has been disappearing day by day. Until the age of modern science and technology, it almost lost all its power. Regarding beings, the knowledge of metaphysics can be summarized in the following conceptions. 1. A thing is composed of material and a form, or material in a form. According to Plato, beside material, the idea jug or the aspect of a jug is needed so that we can see a jug. Idea is form. The jug is round. Round is form. Beside material, we see something else, form, and this form is metaphysical. Only wood does not make a table, wood can be tree, house, the idea table is needed so that that wood is a table. Idea is metaphysical. This metaphysical can be expressed in categories, Aristotle's 10 categories and Kant's 12 categories. The expression by categories goes into details more than the expression by idea, aspect, table, for example. 2. A thing is a summary of qualities. The rock is hard, heavy, big, whitish, smooth, round. These qualities can change. A thing is a center of many changing qualities. These changing qualities come through senses, they are concrete, or through understanding, they are abstract. This conception is easy to understand, and it conforms to the normal opinion. 3. A thing is a standing reserve. This conception views the world as a block of energy, reserved for man's exploitation. Here there is no metaphysical thinking, metaphysics comes to its end. 4. A thing is made, and it stands on its own as self-supporting. A jug is made and now it is a jug whether we represent it in our minds or not. A jug is made and now it is an object for man, Subject. This conception is easy to understand, and it conforms to the normal opinion. 5. According to the scientific view, the jug is made of clay, has a bottom, sides, and a handle. When it is empty, it contains air, wine is poured in it to replace air. This conception is easy to understand, and it conforms to the normal opinion. All above-mentioned conceptions are correct. They talk about beings, they see from beings and because of beings. They talk about beings as such, beings as being, beings in general or beings in totality, and they say it is being of beings. Therefore, according to metaphysics, talking about beings as such, beings as being, beings in general or beings in totality is talking about being of beings. However, if we want to see what a being is, the above-mentioned theories do not help much. Without those discussions, I as a human being still see that thing as a table. To see a table, I do not need Plato's world of ideas, Aristotle's 4 causes or Kant's 12 categories. In the meantime, physics can enrich my knowledge of the material and color that make the table. Maybe that is the reason why philosophy as metaphysics is a science which is disappearing. Chapter 2. Truth. At the beginning, as we have said, the Greeks wondered before the openness of beings. Therefore, the truth is the unconcealment of beings. Heidegger interprets physis as the emergence, the appearance, the disclosure of beings. Physis is usually translated as nature. The term truth is often used to translate the Greek aletheia. Aletheia is the openness of beings. This meaning is found in Heraclitus and Parmenides or in Greek thought at that time. It is also found in Plato and Aristotle. Aletheia expresses the disclosure, the unconcealment, the discovery of beings. As we have said, with Plato being appears as idea. The idea is the appearing aspect of a being. With Plato's idea, the truth becomes the correspondence between the knowledge and the idea. With Plato the truth is not only the appearance of a being but also the correspondence between the knowledge and a being. The truth understood as correspondence is valid until today. With Descartes truth, besides correspondence, becomes certitude. The correspondence must be a certain correspondence. Descartes finds this certain correspondence in I think, so I am. This is a knowledge which corresponds to reality, and this correspondence surpasses any doubt. The truth understood as certitude is valid until today. In the world of technology, the truth as certitude is expressed in calculation and ordering. Everything is revealed in human calculation and ordering. The all-placing denotes all calculation and ordering. Chapter 3. Man. 1. Rational man. In Heidegger's view, at the beginning of Greek thought man is conceived seen as he knows the appearance of beings. This is the wonderfulness of man. From this characteristic man makes the study of beings and the disclosure of beings. With Plato appears the world of ideas. The world of ideas is the metaphysical world. Reason is the capacity by which man knows this metaphysical world. Man is defined as a rational animal. When there is the metaphysical world, when God, representative of the metaphysical world, exists, reason is respected. With rational animal, man is considered a living being, but reason is added to him so that he is different from other living beings. 2. Superman. With Nietzsche man becomes Superman. Here Superman is not man with extraordinary power and capacities in people's ordinary understanding. Super means surpassing, and this surpassing means surpassing the traditional man. Who is the traditional man? The traditional man is man according to Plato, man according to Catholicism who believes in a metaphysical world or God. Superman returns to the physical world. Living with the physical world is living with sensations in man's relation to the world of beings. In the view of subjectivity, Superman takes will or life beside beings as being. Will is sensual, while reason is supersensual. Will of Superman is will to power. Power asks for increase, will in its substance is will of increase, and this will of increase is called will of power. Will of increase or will of power is greed. 3. Laboring animal. What is man's relation to material? Man can change or transform material according to his will. Technology is the excellent way of transformation of material. In the time of technology, the metaphysical world collapses and material is unique reality. Reason loses its important role. Now the capacity of the transformation of material according to will is important. That capacity is labor. Man becomes laboring animal. The value of man is counted by his production. Karl Marx takes the production or labor as measurement of man. Labor is glory. Ernst Jünger writes the worker. The worker is a laboring animal. In comparison with rational animal, Superman, or laboring animal does not believe in metaphysical world or a forever paradise in the future. He lives with the present physical world, even though this is an ephemeral world. Ephemeral but real is better than eternal but not real. Chapter 4. Metaphysics as Nihilism. Section 1. Being. The event occurs. The event occurs at the beginning of Western thought. It occurs to generate the wonder in front of the appearance of beings. It does not occur to generate the wonder in front of the disclosure of being. The disclosure turns to the direction of beings, not to the direction of being. Being turns away, disappears. Being becomes the presence of beings. Talking about the presence, it is really that beings show a clear eminence. People see present beings, they do not see present being. And people think that the highest being is the highest image of the presence, for the highest being is eternal, existing forever. The highest being is being. Being as presence is thought from beings. Being, because it is thought from beings, is beingness, is not being in its truth. Beings are material and being is an addition to material. Being is abstract and empty. Plato's world of ideas is abstract and empty. Until Nietzsche, that abstract and empty reality is only a vapor which is disappearing. The metaphysical world collapses. Nietzsche declares the metaphysical world or God is dead. The metaphysical world is null, nil, nothing. This is Nietzsche's nihilism. This nihilism declares that the metaphysical world with its highest values has lost their value. God is dead or the supersensual world falls, there is only the sensual world. With the metaphysical world there is a dim picture of the twofold. With the collapse of the metaphysical world the twofold, or two shores, is totally dispersed. The twofold, or two shores, is just an illusion. There is no difference between being and beings, there is no being or beings themselves are being. Superman and its will to power acquire the dominant role. Technology and will complete the end of metaphysics. The term will denotes the will of technological time, will only, will is totality, there is nothing else, there is nothing other, will because of will is total. All placing response to the voice of this will, all things are securely set. With metaphysics, being is only an abstract which is added to material to make a thing. In the making of a thing, material plays the main role and being is only an added abstract. Therefore, sciences and technology replace metaphysics. Philosophy is a science which is disappearing. To save philosophy, many people demand that philosophy must become a science with concrete advances, which can be proved, tested, like in sciences, or become an exact science. They do not know that being is not a being and the sphere of philosophy is different from the sphere of sciences. Sciences are not a criterion for philosophy and vice versa. Being fell completely in oblivion. This is Heidegger's nihilism. This nihilism says that being fell completely in oblivion. Being and beings are two different realities. Therefore, being must not be thought, seen, from beings. The idea table, Plato, is being thought, seen, from a being table, being as essence or existence is being thought, seen, from beings. According to Heidegger, such being is not thought, seen, from being itself, from the disclosure of being. Therefore, metaphysics is nihilism. Thinking of metaphysics has nothing in relation to being. Metaphysics thinks being as beingness, of beings. It is possible to say that there is nothing contrary to beingness. But this beingness is not being, seen from itself. In other words, metaphysics does not think, true, being yet. Nietzsche's nihilism means that Plato's metaphysical world, and Catholicism, lost its authority, material plays the dominant role. Heidegger's nihilism means that traditional metaphysics and specially Nietzsche and technology are representatives of the forgetfulness of being. The whole Western thought, now the planetary thought, forgets being and advances to the complete forgetfulness of being. With metaphysics before Nietzsche there is something other than material, there is a dim image of the twofold. With Nietzsche, sciences and technology there is nothing outside material, there is no image of the twofold. It is possible to say that metaphysics is not metaphysical enough because it does not see something different from beings. Regarding being, metaphysics is not metaphysical enough. What metaphysics talks about being is only correct with being in the knowledge of metaphysics. What metaphysics talks about being does not attain to being in Heidegger's view. Being in Heidegger's view is forgotten in metaphysics. If we look at the history of metaphysics, we see that at its beginning what is talked about being is relatively near to being, and at its end what is talked about being is far away from being. The history of metaphysics is the history of the oblivion of being, which grows stronger and stronger and to its end in the time of technology. Section 2. Truth. In the same manner, regarding truth, what metaphysics talks about truth is correct according to the knowledge of metaphysics. Right at the beginning the Greeks wonder before the disclosure of beings, they stand on the shore of beings, not on the shore of being. Because the whole metaphysics stands on the shore of beings, truth as correspondence between knowledge and beingness or as certitude of reality stands on the shore of beings. Metaphysics does not know anything about the truth of being. Truth, of being, is the disclosure of being, being is, happens, as it reveals itself, truth is being itself and being is truth itself. Truth of metaphysics belongs to nihilism. Section 3. Man. In the same manner, regarding the essence of man, what metaphysics talks about the essence of man is correct according to the knowledge of metaphysics. It does not attain to the essence of man like Heidegger's view of this essence. Metaphysics does not reach the veneration of man. The essence of man according to Heidegger's view is forgotten in metaphysics. If we investigate the history of metaphysics, we see that at the beginning what is talked about the essence of man is somewhat near to the essence of man, and at the end what is talked about the essence of man is far away from the essence of man. The history of metaphysics is the history of the oblivion of the essence of man, which grows stronger and stronger and reaches its end at the time of technology. In general, traditional Western philosophy commits a radical mistake. It thinks being from beings, because of beings, in the direction of beings. It acts like that because it does not catch the difference between being and beings, or the ontological difference, the twofold or two shores. It is based on this radical mistake that Heidegger generates the destruction of traditional philosophy and proposes the end of philosophy. Metaphysics as nihilism produces two results for human thinking. 1. For the knowledge of beings, metaphysics gives an abstract knowledge, while the other sciences give a concrete knowledge. Mankind chooses, or at least inclines to, the concrete knowledge. Philosophy loses its important voice. Philosophy is a science which is disappearing. To get a knowledge of the material world, they depend on physics, not on philosophy. To get a knowledge of the universe, they depend on cosmology, not on philosophy. 2. Philosophy is a science which is disappearing. The voice of being, the way, in other words, the way or manner of living of man, is forgotten. It is possible to say that religions take over the task. But religions depend on faith and often talks about life after death. Nowadays the religious voice meets with difficulties. At many places the way is not allowed to be taught to students. And a lot of people do not follow any religion. A pharmacist, when his uncle talks the way to him, replies that he does not know anything about the matter. Really, the way or being has fallen into oblivion.